And so you return. Have you gained a better understanding of the crisis now faced by the First?
Better is not the word I would use. Some lands may have been spared the flood, but the survivors live only to suffer. There seems no end to the horrors inflicted by the Sin Eaters. Indeed. Those abominations are a calamity in their own right. And I can well imagine how hopeless the task of eradicating them must seem to you. But after countless battles and untold sacrifice, we have identified a potential weakness. Sin Eaters are drawn to serve the strongest of their kind, a class of creature we call Light Wardens. And from what we have been able to ascertain, only a handful of these entities exist. Just as an ant colony will perish in the absence of its queen, we believe that the death of a Light Warden will cause the lesser creatures within its sphere of influence to disperse.
I have a feeling Ylmur might have something to say about any concerted action we take against these monsters. Volthra's command over the Sin-Eaters is integral to Yulmoran society. In seeming to guarantee his people's safety, it guarantees their obedience. He will not take kindly to us depriving him of such useful allies.
Agreed. Thus we will need to occupy or otherwise divert his forces whilst we proceed with the business of eliminating the Wardens. Until we have done so, all other considerations must be set aside if we are to forestall the 8th Umbral Calamity. Your uncertainty is understandable, given the circumstances. Perhaps a more detailed explanation is in order. To begin at the beginning, then. In the ancient past, a single star was divided into 14 worlds. This is the source, your home. These others are the 13 shards, in whose number we find the first. Though physically separate, they retain a connection to each other, and with the source especially. Now, let us assume that a given element in one of the shards attains abnormal ascendancy. Just as water will flow from the highest point to the lowest, the excess energy will begin trickling into the source. And such an influx of ether will of course exert a palpable influence. If the element in question were fire, then drought and wildfires might ensue. If it were ice, one might expect the weather to turn bitterly cold. As ether continues to pour in, such phenomena will become more and more extreme, until eventually, a single, untimely event triggers a disaster which cracks the barrier dividing the two worlds. What was once a trickle now becomes a deluge, sweeping the shard along to be rejoined with the source. At the same time, the element which held sway in the shard is unleashed in full, its energies amplifying the original disaster to truly catastrophic proportions. An earthquake thus magnified might strike with enough force to shatter continents. A tidal wave might swell to a size capable of drowning entire nations. These devastating events are what we refer to as umbral calamities. 7 times has a calamity befallen the source. 7 times has a shard been absorbed. At present, the light-drowned realm of the First stands perilously close to meeting the conditions for a rejoining. It is the Sin-Eaters who are to blame for the Light's continued dominance. In addition to attracting their lesser kin, the Light Wardens I mentioned earlier radiate ether, saturating every corner of their territory with light. Even here in the flood-spared region of Norvrant, their influence is strong enough to banish night from the sky. Thus, if we are to restore balance to the First and head off a potential calamity, it is imperative that we put each and every Light Warden to the sword.
We've been doing our best to take the fight to the enemy ever since we first heard the Exarch's explanation.
Though we have yet to claim any meaningful victories if truth be told. Apart from being confoundingly elusive, the Light Wardens possess a troublesome quality which compelled us to delay our plans until such time as you arrived.
Forgive the interruption, my lord, but Hallminster Switch is requesting reinforcements. They say the Sin Eaters are attacking in force, and the village could soon be overrun.
Alert the guard. We should be prepared in case the fighting reaches the Crystarium. You have command of our forces in the field, Captain, but hold off on entering the town until I arrive. That goes for Alphino and Alize as well.
My lord.
Pray, lend us your strength. Such a fight will provide you with far greater insight than any explanation I could offer.
It's releasing its ether! Fall back! We cannot let it touch us! Quickly, my lord, we must withdraw!
That will not be necessary, Captain. Though I appreciate your concern. The eternal light of these creatures has confounded us for nigh on 100 years. For each we have put down, another has risen up in its place, born of the self-same ether relinquished by its predecessor. But now we have a way to contain that corruption. The blessing of light, and the hero who wields it now stands before you. Behold! The monster's power is broken, and the world, twisted by its touch, returns to its rightful form.
It can't be.
What's happening?
It's so beautiful.
The sunless sea. The warrior of darkness has come.
Is that what I think it is?
The night sky. As it should be.
Who are you people? You killed a warden, then bathed in its ether as if it were a spring shower, and now the sky? The legends are true. My lord?
How many years have I waited for this moment? For the one possessed of her blessing. For you. You have vanquished the Light Warden of Lakeland, and for the first time in a century, darkness has returned to the mantle of night. Without the ever-present light to sustain them, the Sin Eaters will have no choice but to retreat. Yet our victory is far from complete. Though darkness has fallen here, the other wardens yet bask beneath burning skies, feasting upon what little life remains. Even should it cost me all I have, I would see each and every one of them slain, that this world might be spared from oblivion. Not only for the first, but for the source as well. Save one, and we save the other. But, be that as it may, I concede it was wrong of me to summon you to this fight against your will. I swear, on my life, I will one day atone for that deed. But for the present, I beg you, stay and see this fight to its conclusion. Cast down the wardens and restore darkness to the first. On behalf of the First, I offer you my deepest thanks.
I understand there is much at stake here, Exarch, but why do you risk yourself so readily? It must have been a dangerous drain on your ether to summon even one person across the rift.
I do it for my people, of course. To give the Crystarium the tomorrow it deserves.
That is true now, yes, but the city had yet to be built when you first called forth the Crystal Tower. I'm simply curious to know what prompted you to commit yourself so completely to this particular course.
There are things which we can ill afford to lose. And I sensed from the first that I had a part to play in preserving them. Forgive me. I fear the events of the day may have taken their toll. Despite appearances, I am an old man. One burdened with many difficult memories, some too painful to recall.
Well then, I'm sorry for pressing you. It's a family failing, I'm afraid.
One which has served us well more often than not. Needless to say, we will continue to fight at your side until the last Sin Eater is defeated.
Come then, my warriors of darkness. Let us gather the surviving villagers and make our way back to the Crystarium.
So it's your lot's turn to be the Warriors of Darkness, is it? It's funny how things work out. Well, I did warn you. I followed you to Yulmore and then on to Armarang. And I was there when you slew the Light Warden. Those white-haired twins who were with you. I remember them from our battle in the Source. Are they your friends then? Through thick and thin? Aye. Then I suggest you keep them close. It's when you charge ahead trying to save someone else that you end up losing those you love. Not that you need telling, I'll bet you've lost plenty. But I wonder, what will it cost you this time? I don't remember when it was that I learned regret wasn't worth the bother. You get numb to it all over the years. The lost comrades, the broken promises, the abandoned principles. Just more nagging burdens to ignore.
So this is what the light was hiding. She's here. I must go to her.
Intruders! Fan out and find them! Out of my way!
Stay your weapon. We are not your enemy. When the alarm sounded, I wondered what we had done to betray our presence. But I see now we are not the only intruders. Sir Estinian, I presume. The dragoon who plucked the Warrior of Light from the jaws of death? Your armor is most distinct.
Much as yours once was. But even without it, I see a former legator still has eyes and ears in unexpected places. Van Baelsar in the flesh. Though I understand you prefer Shadow Hunter.
You are in contact with the Scions, I take it.
Through no choice of my own. They tracked me down and conscripted me to their cause. I swear the receptionist was trained as a spy. Not that anyone can escape that Baldassian woman once she has caught the scent of your ether.
If they have resorted to using freelancers, I must assume their attempts to wake the afflicted have failed. And what of their champion?
Away on other business. Thus, it has fallen to me to root out any trace of the Empire's new weapon.
If it is Black Rose you seek, you are too late. My people have already completed your mission here. Yet this is but one factory among many. When they caught wind of our efforts, they built additional facilities to ensure production continues unabated. There will be no one left in the lands they conquer. No citizens to conscript. No skills to exploit. Nothing the Empire needs. And they will call it victory.
What exactly does this Black Rose do?
The gas is described as a poison, but its actual effect is more arcane in nature. It was created to disrupt the ether in living beings, to bring the flow of their life energies to a standstill. Inhaling even the tiniest amount will cause all bodily functions to cease, much as a potent venom will stop a man's heart. Released over a city, Black Rose could conceivably kill every inhabitant, and all without damaging a single structure.
Search every corner! Rouse the barracks if you have to! I want this facility secured!
I have more questions, but now is not the time.
Sir Estinian, I have an offer for you, but I will make it only once. Since it would seem we seek the same answers, you are welcome to join us.
Ha! From what I hear, you need all the help you can get. In case you don't know, Varys himself confessed that your empire was a creation of the Ascians.
I am aware of what his Radiance said at the parley. Thus, I would return to the capital, that I might behold the truth of this corruption with my own eyes. My path leads to Garlemald.
You have come at a good time. As you may have heard, we have something of a quandary on our hands. Laxon Loft, here in Lakeland. Yulmore has sent one of its airships. They have questions for us concerning the death of the Light Warden. Their emissary makes his way here even as we speak.
I suppose the sky does rather give the game away.
Indeed. 'Twas inevitable they would come knocking. The only question was how soon.
My lord, I am come with the Yulmoran emissary. May I show him in?
A moment, Captain, if you would. Everyone, gather round. I do not wish to show our hand prematurely. Forgive me this liberty. Vanish. Enter. Well, well. The commander of the Yulmoran army himself. To what do I owe the honor, General Ranjit?
The Light Warden is dead, Exarch. Were your people responsible?
You are clearly in some haste, my lord. But before I address your question, you must allow me one of my own. What is Yulmor's interest in this?
His benevolence, Lord Vorthri, is gravely concerned that the actions of an ignorant few may jeopardize relations between man and Sin Eater. Should it transpire that the Crystarium is guilty of abetting the villains responsible for this outrage, my lord has decreed that it suffer the same retribution.
I see. Since you have been so candid, I too shall speak my mind. Regardless of who is responsible, the Crystarium rejoices in the Light Warden's death and welcomes the return of the night sky. If Yulmor considers this tantamount to aiding those you term villains, then by all means, carry out your retribution. Know, however, that even should every innocent soul in the Crystarium perish, nothing can stop that which has been set in motion.
Folly. The death of one or 1,000,000 Sin Eaters changes nothing. The world is dead, and writhe as we might, like maggots in its rotting course, it will not be reborn. Only by my master's grace may we live out our days in peace. But I waste my breath. You have made your stance clear. I shall relay your words to Lord Vorthri. In the meantime, you would do well to counsel any here who have done more than merely rejoice in recent events, to throw themselves upon Yulmor's mercy, promptly. One last matter. We are searching for a young artist and his assistant. Know you of whom I speak?
An artist and his assistant, no. I cannot say I do.
What a pity. Should they reveal themselves to you, I bid you hand them over at once. My master is most eager to see them again.
Am I imagining things, or did he just stare straight at us?
I fear he did. The General is not a man to be trifled with. He is a warrior of fearsome repute who has led Yulmor's army since before Vorthri's time, when the nation still spearheaded the fight against the Sin-Eaters. One does not command the world's mightiest army, and for so long, without possessing exceptional instincts.
If Yulmor chose to send such an individual, we must assume this talk of retribution is more than an idle threat. While we are grateful for your support, my lord, we cannot in good conscience put your people in harm's way.
'Tis noble of you to say, Master Alphino, but my people have been in harm's way since long before you arrived. Yulmor has ever yearned to rule over what remains of the world. Even should we surrender the Warrior of Darkness to them, they would find some other pretext upon which to invade. The people of the Crystarium know this only too well, which is why, when the time comes, I am certain they will fight to the last man. If truth be told, I would not have been surprised had Ranjit declared war here and now.
He may have reason to delay. According to reports, the Yulmoran forces at Laxan Loft were observed taking a prisoner. A young woman believed to be none other than the Oracle of Light, Minfilia. It may be that General Ranjit wishes to convey her to Yulmor before commencing hostilities. Having mentored generations of Minfilias, it would not surprise me if he had made her capture his chief concern.
Ah, of course. How remiss of me. I had intended to speak to you of Minfilia. There is, however, much to say, and precious little time in which to say it. I think it best that you seek out Maren at the Cabinet of Curiosity. He'll be able to enlighten you. Alphino, Alize, would you care to accompany your friend? You doubtless have insights of your own to offer on the matter.
All right, though I'm still not sure I understand it all myself.
In the meantime, I will set about making provisions for war. You are doubtless eager to attempt Minfilia's rescue, and with your combined strength, you may well succeed. But as I said earlier, I do not wish to show our hand unless absolutely necessary. Twas not merely the night sky that you restored to us, but hope. Hope for the future of Norvrand. Unlike you, we cannot contend with the Light Wardens, but so long as hope burns in our hearts, we will fight on regardless. This I will prove to you. My friends, I thank you for gathering at such short notice. There is something I would ask you all. As many of you are aware, I received an emissary from Yulmore a short while ago in the form of General Ranjit. To my dismay, the General condemned the slaying of the Light Warden, and warned me in no uncertain terms that, should the Crystarium cast its lot with the Warrior of Darkness, there would be war. Let none be mistaken. We would be hard-pressed indeed to resist the might of Yulmore. Some would even call it suicide. And yet my heart cries out to fight. Better that than relinquish the hope that swelled in my breast when I beheld the night sky for the first time in 100 years. Or so says my heart. My mind, meanwhile, reminds me that to follow my heart would be to risk everything we have accomplished thus far. Clearly, this is not a decision to be made lightly, nor less alone. And so I put the question to you all. What should we do?
My lord, you already know our minds.
It brought tears to our eyes to witness the knight's return. The whole of Norvrand deserves the same, and not just because some children's story tells us so.
Yulmore's influence is far-reaching. Should war break out, trade would be subject to restrictions. The flow of goods will dry up, and we will struggle to make do with what little trickles through. But make do, we will.
Aye, we can weather such hardships. Is that not the very thing the Crystarium was built for? We have always taken pride in our ability to sustain ourselves. Not just to endure, but to thrive.
When all falls down around you, rise up. Those were your words. There may come a day when all hope seems lost, but even should the rest of the world give in to despair, we shall not. We shall fight on, that our children and our children's children might know a better tomorrow.
Rousing words apart, I never much cared for those Yulmoran bastards anyway. No better than common swindlers, most of them. Wouldn't know a fair deal if it came up and kissed them on the arse.
Trust you to spoil the moment.
It appears we have a consensus. Let it be known that the Yulmoran host at Laxon Loft has taken the Oracle of Light captive. They fear the power she holds over the Sin Eaters, and doubtless intend to imprison her once more. So, I move that we rescue the Oracle, grant her a place among us, and let that be our answer to Yulmore's ultimatum.
Hear, hear!
In planning a strategy for the rescue, I open the floor to you all.
And there you have it. If Yulmore wishes to denounce us as villains, then we shall embrace our villainy. Will you do so as well?
We will not be outdone. Consider us your partners in crime.
My lord, our proposal is as follows. We begin by deploying Amaro to occupy the skies over Lakeland. They should serve to delay the airship's departure. At the same time, we scatter dream powder from the air. Not all will succumb to its effects, but it should thin the enemy's numbers, affording us an opening to swoop in and liberate the Oracle.
Very good. Siege your preparations.
And what exciting crimes would you have us commit? Speaking for my fellow villains, I'd say we're capable of most things, though we draw the line at indolence.
If excitement is your desire, then I bid you join the guard. Captain Lena will give you your orders.
Keep moving. What now?
The Crystarium at a guess. Desperate fools. It'll take more than a handful of overgrown lizards to ground us.
You're gonna be... Sound the alarm!
Captain, the powder has taken effect. It is time. Let us free the Oracle from their clutches.
A show!
You're not alone.
Begone!
Why do you persist in this folly? It's over!
You, boy. You bear a striking resemblance to the artist my master seeks. By all means, keep your counsel. You will all have ample time to confess your crimes back in Yulnor.
Thancred?
So, you are the wretch who stole her from us.
And what if I am?
What?
Pathetic. Vermin such as you are not worthy of the Oracle.
see your city razed?
I would sooner see it razed than conquered. Suffice it to say, we are ready to receive you.
What now, Exarch? Will you face me yourself?
I think not, General. I've quite exhausted my tricks. If you mean to give chase, I will not stand in your way. But you would do well to tread warily, for your quarry goes to a place where even Yulnor dare not bear its steel. Ilmeg, the Fairy Kingdom.
Think that mountain of indolence still had the energy to unleash his hounds. Even the most pointless of conflicts may alter a world's course. And now the plan has gone awry. But how? How did the so-called Crystal Exarch bring the hero of the Source to the First? As if I didn't have enough on my hands already. Then again, with a soul such as that, mayhap there is another way. One which does not require bloodshed.
Not so long ago, here in the shadow of the northern ranges, lay the great kingdom of Verbert. A nation with a proud history that the Sin Eaters cut short, just like all the rest. Since that time, these lands have become a haven for Fey folk. Dreamers frolicking amidst the ruins of a forgotten realm.
We should be safe enough here. It's good to see you again, my friends. I don't know about you, but it feels like years since last we met. 5 of them in my case.
Why, it only feels like 1 to me, but long enough to warrant a more convivial reunion either way. What brought you to Laxon Loft?
The girl, Minfilia, she and I were traveling together, hunting Sin Eaters. But as we were nearing Lakeland, she abruptly ran off on her own. I found her too late to stop the Yulmorans from taking her prisoner. And as I was considering rescue options, I observed that the Crystarium was on the move. So I consulted the Exarch, who apprised me of the details of the operation and issued me certain instructions. Should the situation take a turn for the worse, I was to see you all safely to Ilmeg. And here we are.
Orianger has called this place home for a while now. Yet we have never called upon him, I am ashamed to say. 'Twas only at the Crystarium that we met.
Hardly surprising. This is not the sort of place one visits on a whim. Happily, having trespassed on Urianger's hospitality for a spell, Minfilia and I have an idea of how things work around here. Sooner or later, the Ulmorans will come after us. But before they do, the Exarch bids us accomplish two things. First, rendezvous with Urianger. And second, eliminate the Light Warden of this land.
So, Minfilia. What made you leave Thancred behind, if you don't mind me asking?
You. The hero from another world. I was asleep when I felt it. A presence. Someone I was meant to meet. They were close, and I knew I had to go to them. But with all the commotion in Lakeland, I was afraid that Thancred wouldn't let me.
And would I have been wrong? Had I arrived a moment later, you would be back in your cell in Yulmore. And now we have Ranjit snapping at our heels. You really have outdone yourself this time.
I'm sorry. Thank you for saving me.
Oh, poor thing being scolded so.
Who said that? Show yourselves.
Come now, put away that frown and have some fun with us. Yes, let's have some fun. Lots and lots of fun.
Which way was it to Urianger's?
We've been there so many times, but I can't. Why can't I remember?
Damn it all. We're already caught in their spell.